What's going on, guys? KG here from the Football Capital, and we've got another episode for you covering the A-League. And boy, this week, have they given us something to talk about? But before we get started, obviously we're here. Borche. Borche's with me. Borche, welcome.
Yeah, mate, we're back again. The A-League's back.
The A-League is back. The World Cup's not over, but the A-League's back, which is always good. We've got Harry from Newey Jets Football. Harry, welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Mate, anytime. And Georgie, you see Georgie on RBTV. Hit me up today. He's like, Kevy, I got some stuff to say. So, Georgie, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And I've just sort of started my own little video cast in the last couple of weeks. I've just called it No BS with George. So that's, hopefully they'll kick off soon. But so trying to explore different avenues. So thanks for having me.
No, always welcome, Georgie and Harry. Boys, obviously a couple of days, only yesterday, the announcement got made that shook the league, shook all the clubs, has fans all over Australia sort of puzzled and in an uproar. Obviously, the league had made a decision that for the next 3 seasons that the grand final for the A-Leagues across all the leagues will be held in Sydney. And it's absolutely created mayhem online. There's been a backlash, obviously, from the fans. There's also been a resignation today from one of the directors of the APL from Melbourne Victory. There's Tony Sage coming out from Perth Glory saying, mate, didn't even know about the vote. I thought it was going to be up for discussion on this Thursday. It's all over the shop. I'm gonna throw over to you guys. Obviously, you've been following it for the last day or so. What are your thoughts? Borch, we'll start with you.
Yeah, man, it's not the news you kind of want to hear after you could say a decent Socceroo World Cup campaign. Maybe not the campaign itself, but the fans, the turnout at Fed Square, the turnout in all the other states as well for that Argentina game. And you think at the back end of that, the A-League, which wasn't really promoted for this week, a lot of people didn't even know it was on. You thought that would have helped the crowds as well. And you thought football in Australia is maybe on its way up, especially from the crowd and the numbers that were out there. And then this comes knocking on the door saying, hang on a minute, we've got other ideas, as like I know you guys are the Wanderers and everyone involved is trying to get the fans back, and the last couple of rounds we've seen that, the derby especially before the break, and a lot of the other fan bases they're slowly trickling back in, which was good to see. But now all of a sudden it looks like one or couple of days into the return it's boycott central, and I don't see. Obviously we know it's all about the money and how they're gonna. It's all about the revenue, not about the football. It's not about the fans. It's about whoever's pocket all this stuff is going to go into. But yeah, man, to me, I'm still a little bit confused because a lot of the stuff that was said in that statement was like they're trying to make it in Sydney so everyone can pre-plan, hotels and trips and all that. When at the end of the day, no one here is booking or buying a ticket to their teams in it anyways. So I don't even get that whole point. If Wanderers are not playing in the semi-final, I don't think you're going to go buy a ticket 6 months prior, or you're not going to start booking a hotel 6 months prior or even Melbourne teams. If Perth are not in the 6, I'm not going to start booking stuff anyways. You know what I mean? So I don't get the whole point of, you can. We all know it's going to be in Sydney, so everyone can start booking when. It's all ends up to the final week anyway. So I don't even get the whole argument. I know what I think that what they're trying to do is, because he said, we're trying to make a week full of festive football, whatever. They're gonna try to do that whole what do you call it, All Stars team with the A-League and maybe bring another team in and keep it all in the same state. But at the end of the day, I mean,
even that was a bit of a schmozzle, mate.
It was.
It's an A-League All-Stars game, but it's missing the two best teams in the league who were playing the grand final a couple of days later. But just to touch on that point, Borch, this was part of the statement. It was This is a unique opportunity to build a tradition for football fans. When you think about a cup final in England, you think about a trip to Wembley, and we want fans in Australia to look forward to the A-League's finals in the same way. Mate, we did that. We did the Australia Cup final, and it didn't even do that for us, right? I know that the Croatian following definitely came for Sydney United, but still, I think the crowd was, somewhere in and around 10,000 or whatever it might have been, and it didn't even pack the stadium, and that was probably one of the biggest achievements that the league has come up with, to have a second tier team play the final, obviously against MacArthur, and we still didn't see that happen. I mean, Harry, just going over to you, mate. What are your thoughts on the current situation?
Yeah, obviously, the news broke a few days back. Firstly, I couldn't believe what I was seeing on social media, and my friend commented like, "I'm just waiting for all the people to start." In the comment section obviously went off, but I'm like everyone else, not a fan. I like the way the A-Leagues used to set a location for the grand final prior that year, but to lock in a date for the next 3 years, I totally don't agree on.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. I mean, look, I know, and Georgia would probably feel the same sentiment. We've travelled for grand finals for the Wanderers. We've made our trip to Brisbane. We made our trip to Adelaide. I remember my Adelaide trip was a flight to Melbourne and an 8-hour drive from Melbourne to Adelaide just to make it. But it was all part of the experience, despite losing the final at a packed Adelaide Oval, which was well deserved by Adelaide fans. Georgie, I know you've got your thoughts on this, mate. What do you think?
I think it's pretty disgusting. Even the players weren't even consulted. I actually messaged one of the Wanderers girls, one of our Wanderers girls players, Angelique Christodoulou, about it. She goes, it's good for Sydney, but we'll have to wait and see. But I kind of messaged her back going, at the end of the day, there was no consultation. There was, the whole thing with this whole, we'll play all these grand finals in Sydney for the next 3 years and then potentially wherever else. But first of all, we're football. We're not rugby league or AFL, where AFL started in Melbourne, rugby league started in New South Wales or in Sydney specifically. That's tradition. I don't want those grand finals to go anywhere else. But unfortunately, that may happen more with NRL than obviously AFL. But in terms of the A-League, since I've sort of started watching because of the Wanderers, even the NSL days, it was always the team that finished highest in the finals, that made the final, would have the right to host it. I remember as a youngster watching Perth Glory's grand final in like 99, 2000, was it? Yeah. I believe. Subiaco Oval was absolutely rocking.
Yeah.
Even Wollongong Wolves, when they made their grand final like in 2001 or whatever it was. So, Sydney Olympic, I feel like this CEO, who is he, Townsend? I don't even know the guy's name properly, but I feel like he's just come there and kind of like a David Gallup. I have no clue. I don't know why. And he's basically spat on the fans and supporters, and more importantly, the supporter group. And credit to all the supporter groups. Like, we obviously have our rivalries. We obviously have our, our game day experiences. I went first ever away trip to Melbourne this season. Like, KG will back me up on it. It's like, probably one of the best away trips I've ever done. I would love to do it more often, but to I don't know whether it's just the grand final or is it the final series from what we've been told. Because if it's the final series, then it's.
I think it's the host of grand final. So it's the A-League men's, the A-League women's, and
so just the grand final, right?
Yeah, just the grand.
Okay, well, if it was the whole final series, then you might as well get rid of A-League. That's the way I looked at it. Because
for me, they're ruining our tradition, Georgie.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree.
That's you spoke about tradition. You spoke about AFL having Melbourne and rugby league having Sydney or New South Wales or whatever. But our tradition is the highest ranked team that qualifies for the finals should host. And I just go back to let's think about Adelaide Melbourne Victory. in the final years ago. Melbourne Victory versus Sydney FC. Brisbane Roar versus West Sydney Wanderers, West Sydney Wanderers versus Adelaide. There's so many, and not to mention the F3 grand final many years ago. It's just our tradition, and how do, I mean, there's so many more questions for me post just moving it to Sydney or moving it to the same location for the next 3 years. But why Sydney? Like I was sitting there talking to somebody today, and I'm like, sporting capital of Australia is arguably Melbourne. So why wasn't it handed to Melbourne? Was it just because
exactly?
And on top of that, we found out about it the same day they made the decision. It wasn't like, hey guys, we're thinking about moving the finals to the same venue for the next 3 years. We're going to go through a process. It was like, oh, we've made a decision, and here it is.
Yeah, and
like
apparently,
apparently
it was 12 months in the making. From what Danny Townsend was saying, it was 12 months in. They were talking about it. It just doesn't make sense, man. It just
I don't think it was 12 months. I think it was a rush job. I think the A-Leagues, I think there's a shortfall because of the COVID situation of the last couple of years. There might be a shortfall with crowd attendances. Like, look at Macarthur over the weekend. They're probably, 2,000, 3,000? Why take a game to Wollongong just to thank thank Wollongong area for having Wellington? It's the most stupidest thing I've ever seen. And now they want to talk about expansion.
New Zealand, yeah, they were better off playing it in New Zealand.
Yeah. And just quickly before you guys move on as well, I even saw on Twitter, I think yesterday, about it, saying that the Victorian sports minister wasn't even consulted about going to Melbourne. So obviously, who's lying here?
Yeah, and apparently he didn't want to comment. He goes, I'm not going to comment for any other people, but this is what they agreed on, apparently. But even if you look at the top 10 grand finals in the A-League, none of the top 10 have a Sydney grand or a Sydney-based grand final anyways. The number one is the Perth Glory versus Sydney United over in Perth. That's the number one, 54,000. And then it goes on, and none of them in the top 10 are... any grand finals in Sydney. So what does that tell you right there? You know what I mean? Those are the Brisbane Roar ones, the ones that were held in Brisbane. I think the Adelaide one was in there as well, but none of the Sydney ones, none of the Sydney grand finals. Even that Mariners and Wanderers game that was in Sydney wasn't even in there, and that was a full house. Now you could possibly say, oh yeah, the stadium wasn't big enough back then, but it still doesn't matter. If you played it, you could have.
40,000 it can hold.
Yeah, there you go. So, I don't know.
And look, I think, from our perspective, obviously tradition's a big thing, but I just wanted to get Harry's view on this because he's part of the new generation or the younger generation of fans. Like, I know that we've had it our way for a while, but what do you think, like, in terms of seeing your team, Newcastle, if they finish first and them going and playing their final in Sydney, what does that mean for you for a young fan? Because, some of us adults, maybe we'd fork out the money and travel and go wherever. But if you guys came first and then you and your family had to travel to Sydney, what does that do for you guys?
Yeah, Sydney's obviously closer than other A-League teams from here in Newcastle. But for me, I think having Sydney, if, as you said, the Jets come first, for an example, this year, I think as a Jets fan, and if that does happen, it wouldn't be such a bad thing, in my opinion. That's just me personally. Obviously, it may not happen, but you never know.
Yeah, but
it could.
Newcastle doesn't even have to come first. They could come fourth, and if they will be the highest. If they're the highest ranked team, it usually goes to Newcastle. So you don't even have to come fourth. You can come fifth and versus a team that was sixth. Do you know what I mean? For example, but I don't know. I just think for the young generation, let's just say if Newcastle are the highest ranked finals team, to have it up there in Newcastle, it's a big, a lot of sport fans there as well. Not just for the A-League, but in the rugby league as well. And you want a grand final, and imagine winning it in Newcastle as well. That's something that especially the young generation would always remember. And just to travel down, and then imagine traveling down for a grand final. But how many people can do that? How many people can take that that day off, even regardless if it's Newcastle, if it's Central Coast. But if it's right in your city, then it's easier to get to, easier to access. So I don't know. I think you're right though. It is easier for the New South Wales based teams, but then you're looking around, like you look at even last season, two Melbourne teams in the final. Two Melbourne teams in the
Not even a
final.
sellout.
Melbourne Victory was up there as well. So you got like the
Yeah.
three Melbourne teams. Maybe not this season with the Western United, but it was the Melbourne teams last year that were on show. And where were the Sydney teams? Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
They would have
Sydney.
all had to pack up and come to Sydney for the
Exactly.
grand
So,
final, which
I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
bit of a tough.
I was going to touch on quickly. In 2018, the Jets had that home semi-final against Melbourne City, and then the grand final in Newcastle against Victory, and mate, the place was buzzing. So to have a semi-final at home and then back it up with a grand final was awesome for Newcastle.
Yeah, I could imagine. I know you went on a really good run that year with Newcastle, and I think a little bit unlucky in the
VAR turned off apparently for them. Yeah,
Don't start.
Yeah, the VAR didn't work for the first 7 minutes of that grand final, and then but Lawrence Thomas, now I wonder, he copped a nice sweet chin music from Roy O'Donovan in that final. But you're right, like that. But that's I think that's the point. The point is, you know, your team's performed well all year. They've ridden the wave. They've been informed. They get to the final, and then you turn around, and you look, and you're like, boys, girls, we've got to travel to Sydney now, especially if you're outside of Sydney, or even if you're coming from Newcastle, right? It's still a bit of a trek. It's still something that you need to organize, but it's like, I think part of it is just the experience of going to. I was trying to explain it yesterday, but someone I was speaking to was like, if I'm the king of the castle, if I'm at the top of the ladder, if it's me, you got to come and beat me at my home ground. I'm not coming to you. You got to come to my stomping ground, bring everything you've got, and you got to beat me here.
But they've earned it. And that's right, because the clubs have earned it. We don't now. I know everyone likes to have that debate of no grand final, just whoever comes top of the table should win the league. I don't know. I don't really like that. It's always been semi-finals and grand finals in Australia, and I like to keep it like that. And even like Georgie was saying before, even in the NSL, if Marconi were top and they were in the grand final, we're going to Marconi to watch the grand final. Do you know what I'm saying? Or if it's at Perth, it's in Perth. Wollongong, Parramatta Power in the final was a Wollongong Wolves and Parramatta Power. They played.
I think 03, 04.
Yeah, at Perth Tech, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, like you said, you come to my stomping ground. Why should I come to you? And what's to say that any of the Sydney teams, if we go by, maybe Wanderers are stepping it up this year and look like, good for the final series. But the last couple of seasons has shown nothing of any Sydney team that, to have it here. It's been the Melbourne teams. So if they came out and said the next 3 years the grand finals are going to be in Melbourne, we'll still disagree, but it kind of makes sense because they're the top dogs and Melbourne City is back to back and whatever, maybe third grand final for them in a row. So I don't know, man. It's a win. And go on.
I was just gonna say, Butch, we had a similar conversation. It was around money. It wasn't necessarily around this particular topic, but obviously it's about funding the game. It's about putting money into the clubs and putting money into football. Whilst I totally disagree with this particular decision, how this has all come about, and boys, feel free to jump in here.
Yeah,
the league still has to make some money, and and I think part of it is the way that the final series is designed is obviously for us to make that money. And when I say Aussie fight, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's the Australian way. There's always going to be a final series, and we've got that taste in the A-League where we don't need to then go to the next level and then host a grand final at the same place for the next 3 years. So for me, I understand part of it is going to be around getting money and bringing money into the game. Surely there's going to be other ways to bring revenue in. And I'm surprised there wasn't a bidding war between Melbourne and Sydney if Melbourne knew that this was going to happen, because I reckon they would have thrown some extra cash at it.
Yeah, 100%.
No, like personally, and I'm gonna probably bring this up, like, because I feel like it's it's a grab by Perrottet to try and win the election as well, because he knows he's probably going to end up losing, um, but that's going to be the detriment to our game, unfortunately, and the way the state of the A League is at the moment, and how can they say they can't afford it when all these junior clubs, if the kids want to play obviously at an elite level or in a top level, within their own junior ranks, percentage of that money goes to an A League club. So we're juniors are basically funding contracts to the likes of Lawrence Thomas, the likes of Gabriel Clerc. That's just an example. It should never be like that. But the way it is, Australia has so many other sports that we have to contend with because we have a population of like 25 mil. And we've always been a sporting nation, whether it be obviously football, like rugby league, AFL, cricket to a point as well. But, at the end of the day, it's whoever runs the game didn't consult with the fans and members. And the thing is, this APL group that supposedly was going to come in and revolutionise the game, try to get promotion relegation, a second division. The way I look at it right now, it's basically like a cousin of the FFA. And they've gone, hey, we're like,
Letter is at the head, mate. Letter is at the head, so we all know.
But the thing is, like, I respect Letter, what he's done for the game, especially for us, us Wanderers. Like, look what he's done with that five-a-side pitch at Rudy Hill, right? That's going to bring a lot more youth kids coming through, adults that want to use it, teams and whatever.
Let's not hide the fact that they're going to make some money out of it.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, too, if I'm in a business, if I'm a corporate business person and I'm in a boardroom and I don't believe the chairman is doing what's right by the people or by the company or whatever, I should have the right to do a vote of no confidence with the chairman. Now, I respect Lederer, but the thing is, I feel like Lederer is just dangling a carrot to all these CEOs who are a part of the APL and going, hey, here's some money for you. It's not.
Well, one of them resigned today, Georgie.
Yeah, exactly. He resigned because he knew that he was going to get absolutely screwed over by the Melbourne Victory support.
Yeah.
And you know what they're like.
It doesn't end there. Tony Sage is saying his part as well, saying he didn't even know about the vote yesterday. So it feels very disjointed. It feels like, yeah, you're right. Like, my cousin's over there. Me and him are just going to go and do a deal, and write this up. It didn't really feel like it went through the proper channels because if anyone had engaged the fans, they would have known exactly where we stood on this. They could still go and make a decision. Fair enough, but it feels like there's a lot of backroom dealings and all that. And look, and just to clarify, I'm not against the five-a-side pitches out at Wonderland if that's how they want to make. If that's how they want to generate money.
Look, I'm not saying that.
I'm all for it. That's how you do proper business.
Yeah, but we saw the
grand final.
Yeah, but we saw the list come out the other, literally after the Socceroos got knocked out, of where the funding from the government in Australia is allocated. Like, football's the worst one, and you got cycling at 14 million, cycling, and all these, like, what's going on here? And now you want to make a deal. How about make a deal with the cyclists if they're making that much money? If it's you're pumping 14 million to the cyclists, like, I don't know, what is this for, the guys on the road or the guys that are in the Olympics? I don't know which cyclists are we talking about here. It's confusing me.
I think it's more Olympics than
ones that. But what have they won a gold medal? Have they won a gold medal? No one knows who these guys are. So how big is this actual cycling? Go make a deal with them to host the whatever cycling tour to Australia. Do you know what I mean? In Adelaide or whatever. Whatever they want to host, they can make a deal. But it's just, I don't know. The thing is,
actually look at the funding against the participation rates.
Yeah,
you would be, oh mate, it would be shocking. It would be shocking with the amount of money that they're putting in terms of funding and the amount of people participating in these sports respectively. You will see how badly football is underfunded.
Yeah, but even before we move on, when the whole A-League changed over from the FFA to the APL, and Townsend come in, And then, like the whole rebranding, new logos, new this, new that. I remember the girls from the Ladies League had him on one of the podcasts, and they're talking about just the things that the changes that they've made. Like just for the basic thing of the social media. They've merged the women's and the men's together, where people are like, how come no one spoke to us and asked us about if we like that? Because now whoever watches the women's game or watches the men, they don't watch the men, they only watch the women, they only watch the women, not the men. You want to go through a lineup, you have to, let me find the lineup, but you're scrolling through the men's stuff and then the women's stuff is mixed up, and it's
I
like,
know what was wrong with W League. What was wrong with the W League? Like,
yeah,
literally.
apparently he said they wanted to call it the A leagues because it's the number one out of, like, it's a top level for everyone. Yeah, but cool, but it's not like we didn't know that. It's like you're trying to dummy proof it, like we don't know it's the men's and it's the women's, like we're not, and it's even just basic things like that. And he goes, oh, it kind of unites people, and there's nothing wrong with having two different social media things. If I want to go see what the women are doing, I'll go to the Wanderers women, Perth women, whatever. If I want to see what the men are up to, you're there, but everything gets lost. It's like Wanderers are versing Sydney FC at Marconi, but you go on the Wanderers thing, but there it's the men's stuff flooding it, and then you get lost and you can't see any of the women's stuff. Do you know what I mean?
One post, exactly, yeah.
So even just the basic things like that, and it's like, where's the funding going through? And then now they want to throw in more teams. They you know what they do, like, it's fantastic. They always bring up when things are going, like, maybe not so good, they'll drop something like expansion, and everyone's like, oh yes, expansion. Yes, look at Sydney United. Look, they made it to the final, expansion. And then everyone's like blinded to everything else. And they've been talking about this for 12 months apparently, and now they're just dropping on everyone. Now everyone's backflipped. Everyone was talking about how good everything was going. The whole thing with Paramount last season till now, they're slowly getting it right with the whole all access thing. It feels like we're more invested in our clubs and other clubs as well. Looking at all that backroom, like what's happening in training and the games, the build up to the derbies, the coaches, fantastic. But here we go. We're just going to give you.
You can pause and rewind.
Yeah, not yet.
Hopefully,
They came out and go. Paramount is now doing pause, rewind, fast forward, so you can see ahead of the game. Fast forward it as well. And then it's like you wait for Champions League and all these other stuff, but not the A League. So go figure that one. But I don't know, man.
Look,
I don't know.
I think Paramount's, to your point, Paramount's done a really good job this season, and I think they just missed the restart of the A League because again, Borch, honestly, if you didn't ask me how I was getting to Wollongong a couple of days earlier, I'd forgotten, right? So yeah, I think they missed the restart, but they are really doing well, especially with this whole keep up, like the website, the app, all that kind of stuff. I think, and look, the game is getting better. The game is heading in the right direction, especially with everything that happened with the Socceroos and the World Cup, and there was so much momentum, and everything was positive. All the news was leading into some really positive stuff for the football in this country. And then these Muppets, if they really started this conversation 12 months ago, had popped it on social media, even for one day, they would have realized that they're heading in the wrong direction. And that's where I think everyone is blowing up online, especially from a fan perspective. Guys, without fans, there's no game. It's as simple as that. I'm telling you, Georgie, you would know because we were there on Saturday. The crowd was about 2,500 in Wollongong. If the Wanderers 2,500 did not travel, the crowd attendance would have been 10.
400.
Mate, I'm telling you, it was. I didn't even look at the other end. It was shocking.
No,
right?
well, yeah, like I said about like MacArthur, I think it was about 3, and then I think with another game, was about 5. But just quickly before I forget to mention as well about the investment stuff, I know this is probably another discussion for another day, but honestly, I feel like we need to scrap the cap.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been saying it for years.
Like that's the only way investment's going to be better, and getting the right people to run this game, and get overseas consortiums to come in, like the Saudi ones in Man City, to come in and properly invest football in this country, because we can do it, but they can't do it because of the cap. It's a problem. And then they want government grants and they want money from them as well.
Yeah.
Just touching on Paramount back from last year, one thing that I was pretty disappointed with the previews before the game. They were, apart from the Saturday night, I think that starts at 7 all the way through to 7:45. I've noticed how this year longer previews, which is something that I was disappointed about last year. But
The blue
yeah,
screen.
this year I think, especially with the panel they got, the people that are on Paramount doing the commentary have been awesome this year.
Harry, I think you're spot on, mate, because I think this was a gripe that Borcher and I had a lot last season. There was the Paramount blue screen before and after games, even at halftime,
Yeah.
and it was really annoying. And we even sort of pitched it as giving content creators like yourselves an opportunity to fill those gaps, right? So, like, imagine you filling in the halftime report for about 10 minutes. Why not, right? Why not? Why have the dead air? You might as well have somebody else's opinion up on screen. So yeah, kudos. It's a really good point because they have worked on it this season and it is better. It can still get even better. And obviously with the World Cup coverage, with more recently with Borche being on beIN. We've got to get that plug in there, Borch. For doing the show with.
I'll send you the invoice. I'll send you the invoice for me jumping on tonight.
There you go. We're just waiting for your blue tick, mate. We're waiting for your blue tick. But no,
make sure you get an ABN as well.
But the point being, they're getting a lot of these social media content creators now getting involved in the game, which is exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to push that, push that directive, and it's not so much for us. It's more about for the game to make sure the game always has. Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, definitely with you there, Harry. I hope that we continue to push that same message through over the coming years. But this whole A-League Grand Final thing, it's not going to solve itself. We're just going to have to see how it all pans out over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, I think Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory have scheduled a walkout on the 20th minute.
20th minute, yeah. But also, I believe there may be an emergency meeting done on Thursday with APL.
I
don't know if it's true or not.
Something up. He said that there was some sort of emergency meeting.
I just saw Newcastle, Terrace Nova Castri announcing they're doing the 20-minute thing as well. So,
okay, so the movement's definitely picking up a little bit of momentum because that's a Friday night game for you guys, isn't it, Harry? Yeah.
Yeah, Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely picking up some momentum considering it only sort of kicked off yesterday. I really hope they get it right. Personally, I don't see them backflipping. I think it's just too much for them.
They can't, yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a little bit disappointing. But let's see how they massage this with the fans over the next couple of weeks, and we might do a follow-up episode. But boys, it is time for us to sort of go through round 8. And let's do a bit of a preview of round 8. We'll go through some of the fixtures, and we are starting Friday night. Newcastle Jets versus Brisbane Roar. Harry, I'll get your thoughts and your prediction on this one first, mate.
Yeah, after every derby win, it always feels good. Thing I'm not worried, but interested to see in this game, Charlie Austin. There's been talk of a lot of movement for him. I got no idea whether he starts, he's bench, he's not playing at all. But with or without him, I think the Newcastle Jets, coming off the back of that every derby win back at home, I think against the Brisbane side who struggled for points this season. Obviously, they picked up that win before the World Cup break against Sydney FC, but not being biased, but I do think after that F3 derby win, the Jets can get it done. I'm going to go 2-0 Jets.
2-0 Jets, I like it. Georgia, what are your thoughts?
I think Newcastle. I think they're definitely building for something. Probably not mirror imaging 2018 though, but definitely one of the contenders or one of the sleepers, sort of going about their business, but no one's really talking about them, which I do like because I like that under the radar thing. But I definitely feel like Charlie Austin's probably been worse than Darren Mill-Storage in terms of overseas recruitment, unfortunately.
Opinion on that?
He's played way more minutes already.
Yeah, I know that, but in terms of I just feel
You
if
want to
he's
take
that
Georgie at the
bad, he
Wanderers?
wants to.
You want to take him?
No. But definitely Newcastle will win. I reckon. I reckon it'll be 4-0.
4-0. Jeez, Butch.
Yeah, I don't know about that Daniel Sturridge. He didn't want to get on a plane, mate, for 4 hours. So at least Charlie Austin has made a few trips.
I know.
But
I thought.
no, Newcastle, yeah, they're a bit of under the radar. No one's really talking about them, but they're going about their business. I do think they can get the win. Yeah, maybe a 2-0. Maybe a 2-0.
No hope for Brisbane scoring amongst the three of you. I'm gonna give them a 2-1. It's gonna go to Newcastle, but Brisbane will get one somehow. Flying under the radar, but definitely Harry's talking about him. He covers him in his episode. So let's see what the Newcastle Jets do this season. But moving on to the Saturday games, 3 Saturday games. First one is Wellington Phoenix and Adelaide Adelaide United over there in Wellington. We'll go around the grounds. Just a quick score prediction, guys. Harry, you can go first.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't that long ago at the start of the season the two teams met in Wellington, a 1-1 draw, but I think Wellington are too inconsistent, and when they seem to go ahead in games they can't hold their lead. But yeah, I've got Adelaide. I'm gonna go 1-0.
Adelaide 1-0. Georgie?
It's in Adelaide. I don't know.
It's in Wellington.
Wellington. Sorry, I thought it was in Adelaide. Sorry. I'm gonna say draw. I'm gonna say 0 or draw.
0 or draw. Butcher?
I'll go Adelaide. Adelaide 2-1, 2-0, something like that.
Yeah, whilst we didn't play well over the weekend, I didn't think much of Wellington, so I will take Adelaide. I'll take Adelaide 2-0. I'll take Adelaide 2-0.
My fella thought of Lockie Sale pretty well.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of biff. There was a lot of biff on that one, Georgie. If you weren't there live, you might have missed part of it, but no, there was definitely a lot of biff on the weekend. We then go to, I'd probably say, a game that's been a derby, somewhat of a derby or somewhat of a rivalry. Probably a rivalry is a better description. Central Coast and Sydney FC at 5:00 on Saturday. Sydney FC finding a little bit of form. Harry, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Sydney, like you said, are finding some form, and Mariners, again, another team who can't consistently win after win after win, but Sydney away from home, I'm pretty sure they have a good record at Gosford. I'm going to back them. I'm going to go 3-2.
Georgie, I know you don't like talking about East Sydney, but
definitely Mariners will win. Jack Rodwell's not playing apparently again for another 6 to 7 or 12 months or whatever. So definitely Mariners. Dog will score a double, and yeah, that's it.
Let's get Mariners. Go Borche.
Go for 2-2. 2-2.
2-2 draw.
Yeah.
High scoring.
Nice. I don't know. Yeah, okay. What am I going to do? I'm going to go 3-2, but either way, I don't know which way. 3-2, but it's going to be a goal-a-thon. Let's see. And then, mate, the Melbourne Derby, the real Melbourne Derby, Melbourne City to Melbourne Victory. This is going to be a good one to catch, 7:45 on Saturday evening. Harry, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just like any game, especially a derby, whatever team turns up on the day, any team can get the 3 points. But obviously City winning early in the season, and I think they can do it again. I'm going to say 2-1 Melbourne City.
Georgie?
Definitely Melbourne City coming back from a loss like that, but I'm not 100% sold on Rado Visic taking over. I think that they'll struggle, but I do see them bouncing back quite well against Victory that for me have been super consistent. When we went down there, we basically bossed them from 90 minutes. So I think City will get the chocolates. I think 1-0.
Nice, Borch.
I want to go Victory to win this one, and I know they haven't had
Let's go, Borch. Give us a victory. Come on.
Look, I don't know why. I think City won it in the first time they played. There might be, I know Kisnobo has left, but there could be a little bit of a World Cup hangover for some of their players. I saw Lecky. I mean, he didn't do too bad in the last game, but I think he won the penalty for them. But I don't know. Again, especially against Sydney, there's so many times that some decisions and then legs at the end ran out again. So I don't know if they will be over it by this game, but I think Melbourne Victory will be up for it a bit more, and I think they got a lot more to prove as well in this one. No, we don't know what's going to happen with the walkouts, if that's going to affect the game. You know how the Melbourne fans are; they get behind their clubs 100%. Every single time, even if it's not a derby. So we don't know how that's going to affect the game as well. But I'm going to go for the Victory to win this one. I might go 3-1. Melbourne Victory 3-1.
90 hat trick. 90 hat trick.
He hasn't scored yet, so let's hope he gets one.
We'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, I'm going to go draw. Something it's so unsettling with no Kusnorbo at City, with the fans walking out. It's not going to be for me. It's like it's going to be one of those derbies where it's just not going to feel right. I don't know. I'm going to go maybe a 1-1 draw. So we'll see how that one pans out. We move on to Sunday. The Western United, bottom of the table, Western United, the defending champs, take on Western Sydney Wanderers, 3 o'clock at Amy Park. Harry, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Western United, very, very disappointing so far this season. I don't think anyone was expecting this from them this season. But before I get back to my predictions, I want to ask you guys a quick question regarding the Wanderers. Now, I'm a fan of Cassini Yengi. He scored that winner in the derby. He wasn't in the matchday squad last week. Do you guys know why?
Possibly an injury, maybe during training, or maybe tightness of injury. Because I know he has he's had a history with Adelaide with injury. So I think Mark Ruden's very, very, very tight with making sure that they're fully fit. Or it could be a factor of bringing Bozanic coming off the bench and see where that dynamic plays. But honestly, I feel like it's one or the other. But that's my...
He's a top player. He showed that in the derby, not only
100%.
On the ball, but without the ball, his physical strength. But getting back to the score, sorry about that. Getting back to the score, I'm going to say 2-0 Wanderers. I just think Western...
Mate, you're my favourite pundit on this show, mate. I'll tell you that much. Love it. Love it. Georgie, unbiased, Georgie.
Honestly, I don't know. I think draw. I think 1-1.
Fair enough.
It's at Amy Park, which will only have about 400 supporters. So I think Kribic might get a pen. Hopefully, how to score a pen.
He might not even start.
Apparently, there's word that he might be leaving, so we don't know.
Ooh. There's a hot one.
What did I say? What did I say in round one? What did I say in round one? You guys might have beaten us, but I said you're not going to win anything with this striker up front, and now he's leaving. Maybe he can swap with Austin. I don't know, but I think what you guys should get
apparently someone coming in January, but it's not who we thought it was going to be.
All right, Suarez, you guys were ready to get the teeth out.
It's not him.
I'm gonna go for a Wanderers win, just though. Maybe another 1-0 because a bit of 1-0 FC. I know the goals haven't been flowing for him. So another 1-0 away win, I think, for the Wanderers.
Well, look, Borch, following Victory's win over City,
that means you go first.
We'll pick up a 1-0 win over Western United, and we go top of the league. So that's my prediction. My prediction is a 1-0 win on the weekend with a Victory loss. So that's a Victory win over City. Might put a multi in there, something like that. But we move on to Sunday's next game to finish off round 8. Technically, it's MacArthur at home at Campbelltown Stadium to Borch's Perth Glory. Harry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. Obviously, Perth coming off the back of that win against Western. MacArthur played, in my opinion, terrible against the Victory. Not only did they lose, but if it would have ended up a draw, I'd say the same thing. But I'm sorry, I can see this game being a 1-1 draw.
That's all right. 1-1 draw. Borcher might take a point. Georgie?
I want to say Perth. I don't know. I just feel like MacArthur shouldn't even be in the A-League, but that's a different discussion for another day. But
You're going to have people outside your house ringing bells, mate, in a second.
no, they're not going to be bells. They're going to be like police alarm bells going to ring on. But I actually think 3-0.
3-0 Perth.
I think Cleesby will get a hat trick.
Well, after he scored that belter on the weekend.
Well, there you go.
3-0. I'll take that. I'll take a 3-0. Definitely take one.
Definitely, yeah.
To be honest, I was pretty happy with the win against Western. I know they haven't been the same team as last year, but
Yeah.
I think we needed something to change. We needed a bit more energy. We needed our players to come back after the break, and we saw that Mustafa Amini back in form, and after losing also Fornaroli, we needed goals. We didn't know where the goals were coming from. And yeah, I think we're gonna win this one. I think we can. I think we can.
I was going to say, I heard talking about the striker and goals. I heard
Taggart.
the rumour today, Adam Taggart.
Yeah.
Anyone else heard that?
Yeah.
I think possibly in January. Nothing's made official yet, but apparently after they got rid of Fornaroli, Andy Keogh, I don't know what actual role he has at the club, but he came out on a some sort of podcast or a state interview thing, and he said that they are going. They whatever reason they let Fornaroli go, they were looking for a forward, a striker, and they did mention he's an ex but he did play for the Socceroos and he's an international player. So Adam Taggart's the name that's been thrown out. So we need someone like him, and hopefully he can come in January and bang in the goals. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 Perth Glory again in this one, and hopefully we take all 3 points.
Or I'll take along with you, mate.
Come.
Yeah, I was gonna say quickly. I think with Andy Care as well. I think it's like a recruitment assistant or a recruitment coordinator, and working with the youth as well. So I think he's sort of got that role with the club, which I think suits him, and he understands the fabric of Perth and who he wants to bring in, and that. So I think Perth are definitely whether it's this year or next year, but. If they get someone like Adam Taggart, I think that's a pretty good deal as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm joining you as well, Borcher, with a Perth Glory win. Mate, I'll go 3-1. I'll go to like 3-1.
Here we go. Perth Hopefully they let me in the ground this time around.
We'll see. We'll see if we can make a few phone calls, Borcher. See if they'll let you in. But this time ditch the camera.
Okay.
You can. Guys, before we do wrap up, there is a sneaky game. It's actually popped in on a Wednesday night. So next Wednesday, it's the replay of the F3 Derby that was missed from round 1. So it's being played on Wednesday, 21st of December, 7 p.m. Industry Group Stadium, which I've just looked up, is the Central Coast Stadium. I didn't know that. So it is a Central Coast home game. It is another F3 Derby. Let's quickly give our thoughts on that one. Harry, obviously, Newcastle, you're looking to back your team again?
Yeah, hopefully back at Gosford, another 3 points. But to be honest, I think Mariners would be desperate to get more than desperate to pick up 3 points. We'll see how, you never know. Not that I want it to happen, but injuries for both teams. But if I was to give a prediction, I'd probably say we're going to say 2-2.
2-2 for Harry. Georgie?
I'm gonna say Mariners probably 2-1. I think a late winner.
A late winner for the Mariners. Borch?
I think Newcastle can get the win again, to be honest. Maybe I reckon they can finish it off early as well. I don't know. The Mariners at home this season haven't really been the best. They go 2-0 this time around. I'll go 2-0 and they keep the concrete, mate. They'll keep the concrete.
Here we are, the concrete.
They'll keep the concrete.
The A-League comes up with some amazing trophies. We've got the toilet seat for the Premiership. We've got a piece of concrete.
And you know what? Like, after seeing the concrete block, you thought, mate, this is what the A-League's all about. They come out with that bullshit statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So unbelievable.
True.
So does the winner of the Sydney Derby get either a HSP or a cafe
I was
latte
going to
from
say
Double Bay or something like
a
that?
snack pack or a coffee voucher, mate, for it'll be something silly like that.
Hot
But yeah,
chocolates
look,
for the young ones.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna back Newcastle in this one 2-1. I think they'll get the job done. They're the sleeping giants for me. That are they're sort of coming over our shoulder. I was looking at the ladder today and it's not quite clear cut. There's a lot of teams that are starting to now
Yeah.
jam up
There's
If
points.
Perth,
So,
point gap, I think. Yeah, we're
Yep.
top 7, top 8.
yeah, if
So
Perth get the win this weekend as well, I think we go from 9th to, what are we? 9th to maybe like 7th or 6th. We might jump
which is
that many teams. Yeah,
depending on goal difference as well.
yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Minus
But
5.
it has. Look, it's been a good A-League season so far. Let's make sure that, as we always do, encourage people to head out to the games, make sure we catch them, even if it's a sort of a neutral game. Head out to the venues, watch them. Georgie, I know you were at the the A-League ladies game. I think last week or the week before.
I was there against Adelaide, and it wasn't too bad of a crowd. I mean, tough result, but they've got some good players. But I think the refereeing for the game was pretty piss poor as far as I'm concerned. Apparently, the referee was good mates with the referee. He was a close friend of theirs, so that's what we got told. So
don't ask Banana what he thinks of our ladies team at the moment. He wasn't.
But you know what? It's so funny. He'll say he'll bag him out, and then he'll sit there on a Sunday and still watch it.
Yeah, but to be fair, you know what? If you just watch the highlights of how these goals go in, that's all I'm gonna say.
The quality's not quite. Yeah,
the goalkeepers need to sort themselves out.
They need some goal.
Well, we've got an American keeper that came out of the college system. She's on loan at the moment, so
we might be able to send her back. Let's see how it all goes. But anyway, boys, before we wrap up, I'll just go around the grounds with Harry and Georgie. Harry, where can we find you? What are your socials?
Yeah, Nui Jets Football on Instagram, YouTube. Listen to the podcast on Spotify. Trying to keep the podcast coming every week, but can't promise that. But yeah, mainly the YouTube is where, and the Instagram is where all the content drops. Make
sure you find Harry on Nui Jets Football. And Georgie?
Just at the moment, just Instagram, George Carra 1989. I'm starting to sort of start my own kind of podcasting eventually. So it's currently called No BS with George. So I want to do another video on either Instagram Live or Facebook on Thursday about the whole APL decision. So I'm going to do my own take on it as well. And so that's something I've kind of been working on the last few months. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Boys, thank you very much. And as always, my co-host, partner in crime, Borcher, thanks for jumping on the pod, mate.
You can catch me on Bein Sport.
Bein Sport KO. You'll find him anywhere. Find him in
episode 20. Go catch that episode 20. I might need to be, mate. Cover the rugby league. There's nothing else to cover on Fox Sports. So what's going on? The cycling, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe when.
Online.
Yeah.
But no, again, thanks, gents. Really appreciate it. For all our subscribers and all our viewers, please like, share, and subscribe on the other channels. And let's make sure we continue to grow the game. And we're out for now, so we'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.